Yeah, welcome to another Fireside Chat. Today we're going to talk about stuff. I don't know what it is. Anyway.
Let's wing it.
Yep. Again. So I saw in the paper today, WA had Western Australia says WA Governor Kim Beazley has apologised for wrongly claiming at an Australia Day citizenship ceremony that up to 10% of the children who catch Omicron face death. Fancy saying these things. The write-up, it says that we need to be fully vaccinated above all. Our kids need it. Delta was a threat to adults. Omicron is also, but it is particularly a threat for kids. Mr. Beazley told the City of Perth event on Wednesday, now Delta wasn't a threat for kids. Omicron is a big threat for kids. Most of them will scoot through it fine with a cold and a bit of a headache, but for a small percentage, we don't know how many, but he suggested about 5 to 10%. When we look at experience now elsewhere, after 2 months, all of a sudden, when you think they're recovered, their systems will shut down and they'll face death. Fancy saying that, and then apologising because it's false. And the other thing, it says that a spokesman for Mr. Beazley, the Queen's representative in WA, issued an apology. So Beazley's meant to be the Queen's representative of WA. So I wonder if that's the Queen of Australia or if that's the actual Queen. Because you know how they say the Queen of Australia, which is a false. It's not a true body. It's not constitutional. It's a company, basically. So the Queen of, you know how they did the Queen of Australia? There is no Queen of Australia, so they put it down documentation. So when they say a Queen's representative, I don't believe, as far as I know, he's not sworn in under the constitution of the Queen. My understanding, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Queen of Australia, who does not exist, which represents a corporation. There's just misleading information everywhere that people take for granted to try and give them a sense of credibility and legitimacy that doesn't exist in our government today, certainly not in Australia.
Wasn't it 90s, around the 73 or something, that they changed a lot of the legalities in Australia?
I think it was Gulf Whitlam, I believe, changed it, and they come under a corporation which is owned and it's out of America. The government of Australia is a corporation operating under a business name. So, which means the taxes and the illegal taxes and everything that it takes goes to shareholders and owners of the company.
That's right, yeah.
That's disgusting. So how could you believe anything they say when they know 100%, when they're sworn in and everything, go through all the process, that they have to maintain and live a lie, deceiving the people which they're meant to govern?
That's right.
So the whole foundation on the government is a complete lie, and we're meant to trust these people.
Yep.
So the whole time, and that's where Bose is the only one that talks about the suppression orders, pedophilia, or the corruption within the government that other parties, and what's the other one?
Craig Kelly, but I think Craig Kelly's part of Clive Owen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, sorry, Craig Kelly and Clive Palmer, they've been in politics for ages, and Palmer, I think he made billions, might have been 30 billion. I may have that wrong, but well over $1 billion from China in the whole lockdown and everything in the last year or so. So there's corruption there everywhere. And Palmer and Kelly talk a good game, but they know about the corruption within politics. They know about the pedophilia rings and all that sort of stuff and the suppression orders, yet say nothing. And this is the whole point, that people have a go. Bose is like, well, ask them, put their finger in their face and ask them what's going on. So they're playing the game. They're not calling out anything. So they're part of the deception of governments.
Also, one thing I understand is how people are looking for medical advice from politicians, and people like Bill Gates, who's a computer nerd.
Yeah, that's right. People don't realise that this is a fact. A lot of the science, or to get certain data, certain backing from or finance from big corp, they have to come up with certain findings. So they're steered in the results of the tests that they do, basically, to get the funding. If they don't come up with a certain narrative, then they don't get funded. So it's all swayed for sure.
Isn't it the same with the TV stations? Don't they get tax exempt or something like that if they promote the vaccine?
Yeah, 100%. So the TV, the channels, if they push the narrative and don't give anything that goes against the narrative, then they get 100% tax breaks.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, what I've seen and heard, they're still putting things out there that's iffy. So things are coming out and the walls are cracking, because despite the massive incentive on 100% tax breaks, there's still information coming out from those channels that can't be denied that's questionable. So they're walking a fine line whether they get a tax break or not. They are showing some of the other side of the story, not a lot, but some. So it's going to be the most interesting year in our lifetime, I believe, for sure. So,
well, just schooling, they've got an extra 22,000 people signed up for homeschooling this year in WA alone, and apparently in the States it's gone from 1 in 30 to now 1 in 5 that are homeschooling.
Wow, how's that 1 in 5? Well, that's in America, you're saying?
Yeah, 1 in 5, which is 20%. That's huge. But they did a lot of class online. Like I had my nieces sitting on the computer on Zoom calls for 6 hours a day because I had a virtual classroom. Yeah. So this one teacher talking to 30 kids, and these kids have got to be glued to the screen for, the majority of 6 hours a day. So there's no wonder over there that they've changed to homeschooling so many.
Yeah, that's the thing. From what I've seen, is nothing like Australia. They've basically had hardly any actually one-on-one schooling. They've really shut things down, which is interesting with the ceasing of the mandates, I believe, in America. UK and America have no more mandates. So
there's heaps of places now, Japan. There's more and more places. I heard Denmark as well just today.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good thing. There's more information getting out there for sure. But Australia, obviously, Ireland, separate from the rest of the world, and politicians believing that we don't get information outside of Australia, keep carrying on with the narrative. So, but it seems like they're not trying, from what I've been seeing, they're not trying to mandate. They're just strongly advising. So maybe there is change coming. Maybe they realise to some degree. Obviously not in WA. It's a different matter altogether. So have to follow their science. The science. So that is, the science means their science.
Yeah.
And I feel it's disgusting where, did I mention in the last chat that from class 3 and up, they have to wear masks? Like if they open the border, then that may justify them wearing masks and influx of.
Yeah, I think it was an influx of COVID cases and children as low as what would it be 8 years old?
Third class. Yeah. What about it when there's a brother, 2 brothers, one's younger, one's 8.
Yeah.
And one has to wear a mask, the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's just, who's to say? I'd like some health professional to show me the science, the evidence to suggest that when you're 8 you must wear a mask. Or in actual fact, it's based on that year. It's not even your age.
Yeah.
It's like with this time frame. But if you're actually turning 7 and you're in year 3, you'd most likely have to wear a mask. So where's the science to suggest that? So
but also
definitely shouldn't.
School, it's half a schoolyard, half a mask and half a not mask. How does that even work?
Well, not even. It's actually it's majority, 3/4 of a primary school wears a mask and the rest don't. So then the young ones are going to want to be like their older classmates, the older kids. So they're going to want to wear a mask. Like, they're smart and they're deceptive and they're disgusting. These bodies that, if the majority of people wear masks, the young ones are going to want to copy. There is evidence that they don't work, and I don't believe the cloth masks don't work. And what a world we live in still. If I was able, and I talked to the other ex-half about possibility of trying to work together to some degree to homeschool. Like, and I feel if they have to wear, I don't know if you can pull out partway through the year, but
anytime.
Yeah, okay.
I think you would move.
So
if you're moving schools, and you can go anytime.
Yeah, okay. Because if it came to the point where it jeopardise, that's the thing. I don't jeopardise my health, but I'd rather jeopardise mine than the kids. But if they have to breathe carbon monoxide, like a high dose of carbon monoxide, then I'd rather them not go to school, to be honest. So because I don't want them to be conditioned to follow the narrative of the corrupt pedophilia and governments. So that's where I stand.
Healthy too, by wearing a mask all day for 6 hours for a little child, being exposed to all their waste product basically with carbon dioxide and the lack of oxygen. I think this is disgusting. And the amount of kids that have ended up with rashes and all sorts of disgusting things around the face because their mouth is breathing out all the bacteria and stuff.
As you know, I've fasted a few times, and when you fast, you heal. And when your body becomes alkaline, as opposed to acidic, when you're acidic, your body's sort of toxic. It's trying to work toxins out of the system, and a lot of foods we eat is full of chemicals and all sorts of things. So if you don't eat that healthy, and even if you eat healthy and there's pesticides in some of the foods you eat, there's certain acidic tendencies or certain things that you're going to eat that's going to go against the body. So the immune system has to fight that, of course. So when you fast, and this is a true experience, your body heals. It's amazing the healing that takes place. I've had nerve issues from work and some carpal tunnel from working, and the 39-day water fast that I did, and if someone decides to do that, definitely get some help and be checked along the way. But these I healed. The nerve issue healed and the carpal tunnel healed. No issues whatsoever since that. So it's amazing. And when you fast and you become alkaline, the blood flow is better. There's no toxins. And oxygenation of the system of the body. And this is why people that exercise and that are fit don't tend to get as sick, because there's more oxygen going around the body.
Yeah.
So it's common sense when there's less oxygen and you don't breathe. And like in the cities where there's more smog and some cities around the world, like there's more illness because of the quality of air that you breathe. And they even monitor that. Even in Melbourne, when there's a tennis player that went down, they said, oh, maybe it's the quality of the air in Melbourne. But it came, the tested level was classed as good. So I know people don't look at all possibilities when people faint or something happens. They're only looking at once again a narrative as usual this day and age. There's quality of air, sunlight, all these things which we've spoken about before. So I was just giving some experience and understanding towards why masks aren't healthy for you.
Yeah.
They've even done, in the research I've done, they've done experiments where with horses or certain, this was with horses where they got horses that were sick and they got the mucus from the horse. They put it in a bag and put it over the horse's head in a sense to see if the other horse could catch the virus or the flu. And there's no evidence anywhere in the world. And I've seen a number of people say this, and they've never seen evidence anywhere that suggests that those viruses have actually spread from one horse to the other. And they say where it comes to viruses and this sort of thing, it's worth investigating for any that's interested. It's like when flowers all bloom at the same time, or we all shed at the same time, where we tend to do it in the same area. So we're subjected to the same pollutants, the same radiation, and the same issues. We've been broken down by the same ailments in the same area with radiation and everything else. So therefore, we tend, and if we're not looking after ourselves, we tend to try and process and eradicate illness within the body. Or cleanse is really what it's about. The body cleanses. We tend to cleanse around the same time at different times of the year and different, based on a few things. So they've also found that with certain illnesses, where there's been an outbreak in one country, they've found there's an outbreak or something's happened, a similar case in another country. And it's been almost the same time. So no one's from one country's been able to travel to the other one and infect someone within a time frame. So there's all these things going on. Yeah, once again, we must take precaution where we can. There's a saying, believe nothing that you hear and half of what you see. And I'd even go as far as claiming, believe sort of, 10% of what you see, not half, because even then you don't know the situation. I've worked in security where there's been, where one guy grabbed his woman and shoved her back, and she was dealing drugs in the toilet. And no one would have seen that. And she grabbed a schooner beer and poured it over this security guy's head hole. So he just grabbed and pulled it back from the bar, and everyone just saw that. And she's screaming. And we were taking her outside, and she lost the shoe, and she said, "Oh, my shoe!" And I went and picked up the shoes, gave it to her, and then she started hitting those stilettos, started hitting the bouncer with her shoes, stilettos. And I didn't think, I just tried to protect this bigger guy than me. So I jumped in between her and him. So she started hitting me, and I had some blood in my chest where she got me with the stilettos. Like, nothing serious, but, and then there was outbreaks fighting, like this is, used to be Navigators nightclub in Hillary's. And there was fights broke out one after the other, and we threw so many people out. And I was getting threats going, "Oh, we'll come back for you." And the police had to turn up at the end of the night because there was riots out the front waiting for the bouncers. But yet, so this is what it's like at the moment today. No one really knows what's going on, and everyone's just fired up by what they're told, and just a little bit of information that they think they saw. Nothing is as it appears, I'll tell you that much. And so we had to wait till everyone left. So no one, and we had a few people, like some went up and said, "Oh, we saw actually what happened, and yeah, you did a great job." That was probably 1 in 10 people almost. It was very, very few. But people are just follow the fear and react to that fear, and they don't realize that there's people out there selling drugs and doing, they know that it happens, but they don't think it'll happen in front of them or near them. They think it's extremely rare, and things like that don't happen around them ultimately. So you just don't know. And obviously, I'm not big on our government because they're hiding a lot of things, and the foundation upon which their whole presence, them being where they are, the whole foundation is very questionable, to say the least. This is right around Australia. So I'd rather be cautious and skeptical. And if when you look at the pattern throughout life or history, where we've been lied to that much by the government, and then we're distracted by some other pandemic or something else comes up, or there's always distractions, deflections, and then the media stop reporting on certain things, and then people just forget. So I don't forget that certain things within government is unjust. I don't forget that. And I mentioned this a number of times. I'll follow a leader that has morals and ethics and leads by example, like the left in America or the Democrats. I'm not saying all Democrats are like this, but they'll only change the rules when they're caught. And like in the UK as well, you apologise for having parties and doing things without wearing masks when no one else could. And then, "Oh, sorry, we'll investigate," because they're found out. So how can you trust people that get away with anything they possibly can and everything they can, and then they apologise once they're caught?
Yep.
Do you think they actually fully repent, find God, and never do that again? It's amazing. I just see so often these days that government they get away with everything they can, and the only thing that holds them accountable is once they're caught, the potential of losing votes. That's when they'll change things. But if they didn't rely on your vote, I tell you, it'd be like China, and it's getting more like that anyway, isn't it? So I don't mean to have a negative chat, but
no, but it's true though. I mean, the government proven again and again and again and again that they do not have your best interests at heart. They're there for the corporations and they're for themselves and their buddies, and yet people blindly follow them. That's where my issue is. They're proven to you again and again. If it was a friend that did the same thing, they wouldn't be a friend anymore. You'd know that, no, I can't trust them. But when it comes to the government,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think if it was a friend, you'd have nothing to do with them. But almost like within a relationship, for example, in a lot of relationships, people after the honeymoon phase, they will give certain allowances where because they project, they think, no, I want this person to be like this. And I know some friends of mine that are in a dysfunctional relationship or have been in some, and I have myself, where the idea of, you might be attracted to someone, and the idea of how you want them to be, they don't fulfill that idea at all, but you refuse to believe that they could be any other way. This is a dysfunctional relationship, and I feel we have that with our governments as well. So it's like the idea or the prospect in a relationship that they're not who we want them to be when we're potentially attracted to them on some level. And with the governments, like they're in that position, what choice do we have? Yeah. So it's easy to turn a blind eye and hope for the best. And it's really hard to wake up for most people, for sure. Where do you go if you realise the government's corrupt? Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
So, but I'd rather know and then question everything, and then not follow suit blindly, hoping that they will all of a sudden change their ways. And I've said to friends in relationships where I said, okay, there's no real boundaries. You're not really holding them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So in what way you're encouraging change? But you hope that one day they'll just wake up. If you're throwing it out there, you're loving, and we're not reciprocating, or they're not really seeing or feeling, or they're not going, they're not putting in.
Yeah.
Are you hoping that one day they'll just wake up and go, oh, hang on, the government, what have I been doing? I've got to change my ways.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are they're in religious groups. What's that one that a lot of politicians are in? That one that they delayed
Hillsong?
Certain
Hill.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, something like that. So they're in their so-called church. So if they have a conscience and they're truly looking and seeking to assist people, then that and the church should be talking about ethics and what's right and heart and those sort of things. But if you're in that, it's like it feels to me like when you go to church, I'm not saying all Catholics are like this either, but Catholic Church, you repent. I just shot someone, and just repent. Okay. Whew. Yeah. Next day you're going to shoot someone else.
Yeah, that's right.
So this guy goes into church and he talks to the priest and he says, "Oh, look, I've just slept with a prostitute and two other women, and it's never happened before. It's never happened. It's the first time, and the priest goes, oh yeah, okay, no worries, just do a couple of Hail Marys and it's okay. Yeah. So I won't tell anyone." And the guy says, "Are you kidding? I'm telling everyone." Anyway, that guy's could just easily be McGowan. Because he's screwing everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's just my opinion, and from what and there's plenty of research out there to suggest, or information to suggest that, that's for sure. But everyone believe what they want to believe, and pretty much everyone does. So, but if you're curious, do some research and find out. But I've mentioned plenty of times that I'd rather follow someone that is the real deal. And I've said this plenty of times, if the rules that apply to everyone doesn't apply to you, or even only applies to you when people are looking, then you're not the real deal. You're a long way from it. You're deceptive, and you're not normal, and you're either, and especially if you're in a position of power, then you see people as under you. A lot of people, they're the exception to their own rules because they feel like they're the victim and that their life's unfair. And a lot of people, most people out there, they're the exceptions to their own rules purely because they're suffering and they feel like life isn't fair, and they look at what other people have externally and then they think, oh, I need that. How do they get those things? And that's a different kettle of fish. The politicians, people in power, they are the exception to the rule. They aren't thinking that they're victims. They just think that they're above us. Can understand, and I've been in that place where I've been jealous of other people, what they might have, or if I'm suffering and they're not, and I think things are unfair. I've been there before in my life, not for a long time. It's a sense of not knowing and a sense of you don't know where to turn. You feel like things are on top of you. So, but definitely if you're in a position of power and you're doing that, then it's a different kind of darkness. It's thinking that you're above everyone else. It's condescending. It's not even seeing anyone for who they truly are. Just that is dark. Feeling that you're a victim, it doesn't mean you're dark. It just means that you're confused or feeling a bit lost or feeling hurt or something like that. So you can't take offense in a sense. It's just a matter of not knowing. These people, it's almost like they have no soul because they're not really valuing anyone else. But they have their own set of rules. They're in power. They have money. They have basically everything that most people would like to gain. They have a sense of freedom. So, or do they? Because it seems like they're being controlled by some pretty dark forces, from what I can see as well. So, yeah, I'd never sell my soul for power or money ever. It would never happen. It definitely appears to me that these people have. So because the choices they're making are nonsensical, and even the fact that, speaking about it again, that sometimes you can't dance or you can't catch COVID if you're sitting down eating or having a coffee and those sort of things. Just like, come on, people, we know this doesn't make sense. Why pretend it does?
Yep.
And that's why I don't wear masks. It's like, well, pretend I'm eating, pretend I'm having a coffee.
Yeah, that's right. Just pretend I'm eating an apple and you'll feel better.
Yeah. And I used to, at one point, I'd carry an apple in my pocket. Someone says something, depending on the confrontation. I don't do any of that now, but at one point, it's like, I've got an apple here, so there you feel safe. There you go. I'll take a bite.
Remember the very first lockdowns, I think we had to catch up, and I brought a bag of grapes because
I remember. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll slowly eat this grape, and while it's in my mouth, you cannot be infected by anything. You're safe. So not that we have to say that, but it's just like in cafes where I haven't worn a mask, so I just wait outside and I'll take your order. And I said to them, well, are you okay serving me and coming to the table if I'm eating and you serve something else and I'm not wearing a mask? They just look at me funny. I said, because I'm not wearing a mask. How are you going to serve me? Yeah. And how are you comfortable and content and how do you feel safe with that? And then obviously they reveal it's following the mandate. It's not following common sense. So then the way that other people think, and I understand in the shop to some degree when they need to try and, as best they can, appease their patrons. And if the majority if there are people looking funny or, it's when we go to the shops, knowing I'm not wearing a mask, and I say to some people, you don't have to wear it if they're down in the back of the shop or in a certain section, they'll pull it out because a lot of people just go along because it's easier. I cannot. It just doesn't sit with me. It's about freedom is about having integrity no matter what other people think and feel. And there is no greater freedom from someone that's been broken and lost and conformed before. And I used to worry about what people think. Yeah, there was, and I used to want to escape and run from responsibility. And I have more freedom now than I could possibly have ever imagined. And I don't conform because it's not dependent on anyone. If that's the case, you will never, ever, ever, ever be free. It's an illusion. Freedom is being true to yourself. That is it. So what do you want to talk about? So it'll be interesting on the 31st. Yeah. What's going to happen in Western Australia? Whether I'm hoping that there are arrests made, because obviously there's meant to be arrests made for the corrupt politicians for the mandates and things around Australia. So there's been some sheriffs and whatnot that's been sworn in. So let's hope that arrests are made. But it will be very interesting.
Very changing world at the moment. Even looking at the Sky Show the other day in Perth, it was ridiculously quiet compared to other years. I mean, it was so much room available when people have no issue. There was no traffic issues at all, none. And I remember years ago when I went, it took you about 3 hours to get out of your home and get away from the city.
Yeah, well, I think cracking down on masks and meant to be QR coding and all that sort of stuff, it would have been I think people are literally over it. So I'm curious as to how many will stand up. And the numbers are down for getting boosted as well. So they can do another, I think, 100,000 a week or something more. And so people aren't lining up. They're having clinics. People aren't showing up to get boosted.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of people even that have had the first couple of jabs saying, no, that was enough. I've done what you told me to do. And you promised everything after two shots, that everything was going to go back to normal, so to speak. And they're done.
I saw an interview with Brad Hazzard, or Biohazard, as they call him, in New South Wales, the health minister. And he said it's like the flu shot. It's unrealistic to think that just one and that's it. It's more realistic to think you may have to get maybe one a year or however it is. Yeah, so they're trying to condition people, but they're not saying it's mandatory at this point. Not in New South Wales anyway. We'll see.
Yeah, we hear a lot of big corporations especially are doing it, pushing it. If you want a job, then you got to keep getting jabbed.
And there's more people pulling out than people realise. Like I heard that Joondalup Hospital, and not to be verified, but I heard half or quite a number of staff and some people that did get the jab are having some side effects from it. But once again, they feel they have no choice because they have payments, bills they need to pay. So also a very good friend of mine, I worked with him in construction, and the company he works for, on the site where he was working, they lost half their staff, their workers, so, and some good leading hands as well. So things are changing. Yeah. So I sort of, I don't know, right or wrong, I feel that these companies that get jabbed, take the experiment, or you're sacked, I hope they all go under, to be honest.
I'm just thinking, I hope people have a memory too. The ones that pushing people out and segregating and promoting division, that people remember who they are and not support them when things drop off a little bit better.
Yeah. It really comes down to, not that I want to harm anyone or no, it's just that people need to be held accountable for their actions. That's what it comes down to. And if you're erring on the side, and I get it if you feel like you've got no choice in a sense, but I guess it's tough because I'd rather choose ethics over money. It's just me. So, but I feel when you're forcing people to do something they don't want to do, then that's pretty disgusting in my books. Whether it's companies, businesses, or whoever it is, it's just so many people feel compromised and wouldn't give consent, only that they feel they had no choice. So it needs to stop. It really does. And the fact that people are stopping from getting the booster, I think that's a step in the right direction. People are waking up more and more. I'm a supporter of the A1, Australia One Party, because it's old school. And I just want to make this point anyway. I do support the A1, Australia One Party, because it's the traditional way of how parties are meant to be run, where it's voted in by the people, not saying this is the person you vote for. Anyone can try and get voted in. And if you do the wrong thing, or let's say you got voted in within the party and you go against everything that you're for once you're in, which politicians tend to do sometimes, then you can get voted out, a vote of no confidence, with 30% of the people that voted you in who are a vote of no confidence vote. So it keeps people accountable. So if you're not sure where to turn, where to look into, I definitely recommend investigating the Australia One Party. And even you don't have to join it. You don't have to, it's just a matter of where your vote goes. But as mentioned with some of those other parties that talk about mandates and getting rid of mandates, they're still not holding the politicians accountable with the pedophilia and the suppression orders and all the other stuff that's out there.
Yep.
So I'd rather someone that's going to hold them accountable and expose the truth on all levels than someone that will go back to normal, where you still get the suppression orders. There's still some things, dark things within the government that let's just not talk about it. That let's just pretend that doesn't go on. And but we'll get rid of the mandates. So vote for us. And so there's nothing really solved, because the same disgusting bodies and all the disturbing things within the politics and government, no one's accountable on it. So if no one's accountable, then what's to stop from carrying on further? So we need true change, and I feel we definitely must look at where our allegiances lie. We can't carry on like this. Things are happening, but you've got to really start questioning everything. Even what we talk about, question, and some will question everything we say and find out for yourself. It's worth a bit of investigating in my books. If you can prove us wrong, you've learned something. And if you come up with the same formula, then at least you'll have strength going forward. So either way. So thanks for listening in, and we'll look forward to the next one. Bye for now.